Hey everyone, and bonjour from right here in Kinshasa. Welcome back to Kinshasa today.
Good to be here.
So, if you're like us, you've probably felt things buzzing a bit lately. Around town, the region.
Yeah, definitely some chatter.
Well, this is episode 018, and today we're going to do a deep dive into something that's, well, certainly fueling some of that talk. The Declaration of Principles.
The one just signed between the DRC and Rwanda.
Exactly. And interestingly, signed way over in Washington with U.S. involvement.
Under U.S. auspices, yeah. That's a key detail.
So for you listening in, maybe you're trying to get your head around what this actually means for us, for the country.
Right. I mean, keeping up with everything, it can be a lot, whether you're deep into the politics or just want to know, the main points.
Absolutely. We all want clarity, the key insights. So that's our mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
We've been looking at reports from Radio Okapi and NouveauMedia.cd, good local sources.
Solid sources, yep.
And we want to unpack this declaration, get a sense of President Tshisekedi's perspective, and just, well, try to figure out what it might signal for the future.
Sounds like a plan. So where do we kick things off?
Let's start with the president himself, President Tshisekedi. How did he react?
Okay, so he held that press conference, remember, on Tuesday, April 29th.
Right, here in Kinshasa, with President Sissoco of Guinea Bissau visiting.
Exactly. And both Radio Okapi and NouveauMedia.cd picked up on his comments. They quoted him directly.
And his initial take seemed quite positive.
Yeah, I'd say optimistic is the word. Both sources highlighted the same quote. C'est un pas dans la bonne direction.
It's a step in the right direction. Pretty clear first assessment.
Very clear. And he didn't just leave it there either. He made some pretty strong statements after that.
Oh, like what?
Well, he talked about bringing paix véritable et définitive.
True and definitive peace.
Yeah. And he also asserted, and this is quite something, il n'y aura plus de problème d'instabilité en République démocratique du Congo.
So, yeah, there will no longer be problems of instability in the DRC. That's a huge promise.
It really is. Very confident. He even framed it as his vœu et mon serment.
His wish and his oath. That adds a layer of, personal commitment, doesn't it?
It feels that way, yeah. Like he's really putting himself behind this.
But wait, did he give any specifics?
Yeah.
About how this declaration achieves that?
Well, that's the interesting part. While he's clearly optimistic, he was also quite reserved on the actual details. He mentioned respecting the initiatives of our partners, which we take to mean the U.S., given the mediation.
Okay.
And he basically said he'd elaborate more, but only once peace is, actually achieved, a reality.
So hopeful, but keeping the cards close to his chest for now.
That's how it seems, yeah. Maybe things are still sensitive or maybe still being ironed out.
Okay, that makes sense. So, stepping back a bit, what did the sources tell us about the declaration itself, the bigger picture?
Well, NouveauMedia.cd gives us the date it was signed, Friday, April 25th. And its stated aim is essentially to pave the way for a bigger agreement, one that promotes peace, economic development.
Across the Great Lakes region.
Exactly. And crucially, to end the conflict in eastern DRC. That's a central goal mentioned.
And the U.S. mediation is confirmed by NouveauMedia.cd too.
Yes, explicitly. It states the agreement between the DRC and Rwanda happened under American mediation.
Which, having a major power like the U.S. involved, it often signals something important is happening, or intended anyway.
It adds weight, certainly. A level of international focus.
Okay. Now, there was something else happening around the same time President Sissoco's visit from Guinea Bissau. How does that fit in?
Right. His working visit on Tuesday the 29th. It seems like a separate track, but maybe connected to broader regional diplomacy.
Possibly. What happened during that visit?
Well, Radio Okapi highlighted a pretty significant moment. President Tshisekedi awarded him a major honor.
Oh, yeah.
Elevated him to the rank of Grand Coordinator in the National Order Kabila Lumumba.
Wow, Grand Coordinator. For what reason?
For his dedication to pan-Africanism and his efforts towards peace in Africa generally.
That's quite the recognition.
Yeah.
How did President Sissoco react?
He expressed deep honor, saying it was for the people of Guinea-Bissau too, and that the gesture wouldn't be forgotten, the expected diplomatic response, but likely heartfelt.
Sure. Was it all ceremony, or did they talk business?
Oh, they definitely talked substance, bilateral discussions about the situations in both countries, the regional picture.
So real diplomatic work happening in parallel.
Seems like it. And something else Radio Okapi reported, which is interesting for us here.
What's that?
They announced a joint commission is going to be set up soon. Congolese and Guinean experts.
A joint commission for what?
To look into opening diplomatic missions, embassies, basically between Kinshasa and Bissau, and explore other ways to cooperate.
So strengthening ties with other African nations could be part of a wider strategy for stability.
It could well be. Building alliances, fostering cooperation, it often goes hand in hand with peace efforts.
Okay, so let's pull these threads together. We've got President Tshisekedi sounding positive, even making strong promises about peace regarding this declaration with Rwanda.
Mediated by the U.S.
Right. And at the same time, we see this diplomatic outreach and strengthening of ties with Guinea Bissau.
Yep. But there's still that gap we mentioned earlier.
The actual content, the specifics of the Declaration of Principles.
Exactly. That's the big unknown right now. Both Radio Copy and NewRemedia.cd report the president's optimism, but neither gives us the nuts and bolts.
We know the aims, peace, development, and the Eastern conflict, but not the how, not the agreed steps.
Precisely. And that, I imagine, is what you listening right now are probably wondering about most.
Yeah. What does this step in the right direction actually look like? What's written down?
It's the natural question. The president's reassurances are important, of course, but people want to know what was agreed with Rwanda.
Were there compromises? What guarantees are there? How does this translate to, real change on the ground for people?
Those are exactly the questions. And without the details, well, speculation fills the void, doesn't it?
It does. So, summing up this first look.
Yeah.
President Tshisekedi is publicly backing this declaration as a positive, maybe even crucial first step towards lasting peace.
Check. Under U.S. mediation.
Check. But the actual substance of the agreement remains, for now at least, under wraps.
That seems to be the situation. We have the positive framing, the context of U.S. involvement, but the full picture, it's still emerging.
Which is understandable, perhaps, but also leaves you wanting more concrete info.
Absolutely.
And maybe that leads us to a final thought for you, our listeners, here on Kinshasa Today. Well, this deep dive gives us the initial reactions, the setting, but the story isn't finished, clearly.
Far from it.
So obviously keep following the local news, Radio Copy, NouveauMedia.cd, others for updates. But also, maybe think about this.
Go on.
President Tshisekedi talks about lasting peace, a definitive end to instability. What concrete actions, what practical steps do you think are absolutely essential to make that happen?
That's a great question to ponder. Because signing a paper is one thing.
Right.
Achieving genuine, sustainable peace on the ground is another challenge altogether. What needs to fundamentally shift, in your view, both here at home and in how we relate to our neighbors?
What's needed for a truly stable, prosperous future? Lots to think about there.
Definitely.
Okay, that wraps up this deep dive on Kinshasa today. Stay informed, keep thinking, and we'll catch you next time.